Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Macbeth Act 3, Scene 1, which is the first scene as far as your class 12 syllabus for ISC is concerned. So that's what we are going to study. We have already seen the murder of King Duncan in the first two acts, in Act 2 in particular. And now we see the consequences of that particular regicide, what really happens, especially to the characters of Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. Arambikilama. Let's start. Shall we start? Okay, so this is the PDF. I hope you can see it on your screen. Now, this particular scene takes place at Fawz. It's pronounced as F-A-W-Z. Okay, this is the palace and Banquo enters. Now, Banquo is obviously one of the important characters because he is presented throughout the play as a foil to Macbeth till his murder takes place, right? And we have seen that Banquo is the only other person who knows what the three weird sisters predicted for Macbeth and also to an extent for Banquo. Banquo says, "Thou hast it now, king, Cawdor, Glams, all, as the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it." Now, this is the particular scene in which Macbeth orders the killing of Banquo and his son Fleance. The killing of son Fleance that he orders is extremely important because the witches had predicted that the descendants of Banquo will be the ones who would become kings in the future. So he wants to prevent that line of succession from taking place because he sees them as a potential threat based on the prophecy made by the witches. Now, Banquo says, "Thou has it now." What is he referring to? He is referring to the different titles. He says, "You have it now." You referring to, thou referring to Macbeth. Okay. He says, "You are now the king. You are also the Thane of Cawdor, the Thane of Glams," the titles that he occupied before this, all of them. And just like the weird woman, that is the witches, predicted, promised means predicted, and I fear, but I suspect, here he's talking about that he is doubting. He suspects that you, that is Macbeth, used foul play, played most foully, that he used some amount of foul play in order to attain these titles. For it means in order to achieve these titles, especially that of the King of Scotland, you did something which was not moral, which was not the ethical thing to do. Yet it was said, "It should not stand in thy posterity." But the witches also said, right, that the titles will not remain with your descendants. Posterity means, after you. It should not stand means it is not something which will be there for it, for which you did something extremely dishonest. Okay, so he says it will not be for your descendants. Posterity means something which comes after. But that myself should be the root and father of many kings. But that I, myself, that he's referring to Banquo himself, will be the root. That is, it is from me that the next line of kings will actually come as far as Scotland is concerned. So the sons and grandsons, that is my root. And I will be the father of many kings. That is, from me is where the line of descendants will come for Scotland's royalty. If there come truth from them, as upon the Macbeth their speeches shine. So he says, if the witches, if there come truth from them is referring to the witches. If they indeed spoke the truth, them referring to the witches, and what they told about you were brilliantly fulfilled. Speeches shine means their speeches shone, that whatever they said in that interaction with the witches, they actually came true very brilliantly. Shine means they really came across very brilliantly because that's precisely what happened. Why, by the verities of thee made good, may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope, but hush no more. So he's saying, then maybe. So you see, Banquo is also hoping that maybe since their predictions about you came true, it is quite possible that their predictions about me, that is, my descendants will become the kings of Scotland, that may also come true as well. And that gives me hope. Set me up in hope means that provides him hope, that gives Banquo hope. But now I will shut up. Hush means I will not speak anymore, because he has heard the sound of the arrival of Macbeth along with Lady Macbeth, Lennox, Rocks, and other ladies and gentlemen and lords. So oracles is an important word here, because oracles essentially were used as sources of truth. It is used by Banquo for the witches. He's referring to the witches as the oracles as well, because oracles were known as sources of some kind of knowledge, prophetic knowledge about your own fate and destiny. And by calling them oracles, and this is an important point, by calling the witches as oracles, otherwise he refers to them as weird sisters, but by calling them as oracles, he's kind of giving their predictions, their pronouncements a lot of importance, because he has seen at least some of them coming true. As far as Macbeth is concerned, all their predictions have actually come true. Now, the last part, and this is important, please make a note of it. The last part where he's kind of hoping that why can't they be my oracles as well? And that gives me hope. It shows that Banquo is also harboring some kind of ambitions as far as his next generations are concerned. So since the witches were right about Macbeth, he starts to entertain the idea that what they may have prophesied about Banquo, that might come true as well. So he's trying to think about his own place in the larger context, because Macbeth has become king as per the prophecy by the witches. He has seen Macbeth's rise to ultimate power. So, there is this internal kind of struggle between his loyalty to King Macbeth and his own ambition, which seems to be budding, and that's kind of sets up some kind of a clash. So this is an important point. So if you get something with reference to Banquo's, ambition, you need to mention this. Macbeth says, here is our chief guest, referring to Banquo. Okay. So Lady Macbeth says, if he had been forgotten, if we had forgotten him, it would have been seen as a gap in our grand feast and all thing unbecoming. That if we had forgotten it, our big celebration would have been incomplete. Okay. A gap in our big feast means our feast would have been incomplete if we had forgotten about Banquo. Okay. And that would have been quiet. All thing means that would have been quiet. Unbecoming means inappropriate. And to forget about Banquo would have not only led to a gap in a lacuna, a drawback in our grand feast, but it also would have been rather inappropriate. Macbeth says, tonight we hold a solemn supper, sir. So we are having a ceremonial. This is referring to ceremonial supper. Supper as in dinner or a feast, and I request your presence. Please note this word, request. That I request that you should also attend it. Let your highness command upon me. Now look at, why did I say request ko mark karo? Because he uses the word command. Banquo responds with the word command to Macbeth's use of the word request. So he says, whatever your highness orders me to do, commands me to do, to the which my duties are a most indissoluble tie forever knit. So he says, Banquo says that whatever your highness, that is the King Macbeth, commands me to do, it is my duty to obey it. Now, let me just explain to you this particular phrase. Now, indissoluble means something which cannot be broken or undone. Okay. Tie means some kind of a bond, right? You know that, he has good ties with him, which means that there is a good relationship between A and B. So, indissoluble tie is essentially talking about an bond which is unbreakable bond. Okay, so Banquo is using this particular phrase, indissoluble tie, to express his sense of loyalty, sense of duty towards the King of Scotland, that is Macbeth. So he's basically saying that his loyalty and obligation to follow the king's commands are so strong that they cannot be broken in any way. Then I also told you that he uses the word request, but he replies by using the word command. Now, why is Banquo's use of the word phrase indissoluble tie significant? Because he is unaware of the fact, though he suspects that Macbeth has done something wrong, dishonest, but he is unaware of the fact that he's the one who actually went ahead and killed King Duncan. So he's kind of expressing loyalty to a man who has actually committed the ultimate crime of regicide. So this kind of creates a dramatic irony that, this man who knew everything about Macbeth, including the predictions made by the three Weird sisters, but he did not know that he killed King Duncan, and now he is actually expressing great loyalty to this particular king. But at the same time, we also know that Banquo has a strong sense of duty, and that kind of leads him on to question Macbeth's legitimacy as the king of Scotland, right? I mean, he kind of questions that. So, and we also know that the moral compass of Banquo is much superior to that of Macbeth. So he is loyal, but he will not follow him blindly. So these are the different aspects of Banquo that I'm telling you about, which you should be aware of so that you can use it in your answers. Macbeth says, "Are you going riding this afternoon?" That is, you're going on horse riding. Banquo says, "Yes, my good lord. We should have else desired your good advice, which still hath been both grave and prosperous in this day's council, but we will take tomorrow. Is it far you ride?" So Macbeth wants to know the whereabouts of Banquo as to where he is going and whether he is going very far. So he says that we would have liked to hear. Desired means we would have liked your good advice, which still has always, still means which always has been very serious. Grave means serious, and prosperous means it has been of benefit to Scotland at the council meeting. So he's talking about regular work of the entire kingdom governance issues. But we will conduct it tomorrow. Are you going far? Banquo says, "As far, my lord, as will fill up the time between this and supper." So he's replying to him as to where he's going. Now, the fact that he's referred to his advice as grave and prosperous, that is serious and beneficial, it shows us that Banquo is considered to be a sensible kind of an advisor in the kingdom of Scotland. And his advice is not just serious, but it also leads to benefits for the kingdom of Scotland. And that is something which Macbeth is acknowledging, in public. So yet another aspect of Banquo is emphasized, brought out, that Banquo is someone who is seen as insightful, someone who is wise, someone who is intelligent and can give sound and clear advice. So, in contrast, we will see Macbeth in Act 3 itself kind of descending into all kinds of different kinds of paranoia. And there is also irony in this, that while he is praising Banquo, at the same time, we know in the same scene, he will be also plotting to have him killed. So there is, it shows that Macbeth is an extremely Machiavellian, scheming kind of character, someone who cannot be trusted, because on the face of it, he's praising Banquo while he will also be at the back of his mind, he's plotting Banquo's murder. So that is something. So it shows his deep sense of fear and insecurity vis-a-vis Banquo. So please, whatever I'm telling you about Banquo, keep making notes, because these are important points that you will need as far as your answers are concerned, 5 marks or 10 marks. Okay. Banquo's killing will be an important question for you in the examination. Okay. I will teach you everything in great detail, word by word, line by line. You will not have to look at any book after this. If you take down the notes, that will take care of it. Subsequently, our test papers will take care of, the way you need to write the answers. That will be later in the year. Okay. As far my lord, as will fill up the time between this and supper. So he says, the distance is far enough that the trip will take me time from now until dinner. Okay, so that much time it will take for me to go and come back. That it will be between now when I leave and until dinner time when I come back. Unless my go not my horse the better, unless my horse goes faster than I expect. Unless my horse goes faster than I expect. Better, that is referring to speed. I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain. So he's saying that I'll be riding an hour or two after it is dark. Okay, after it is dark, I will be riding. So, by the time I come back, it will be dark and it will be almost a couple of hours when I will actually be riding when it is already dark. Now, borrower of the night is an interesting phrase that he uses. Now, it is a metaphor. This one is a metaphor. So it's not as though he's borrowing something from the night, but he's saying that he's going to be taking time from the night to complete his journey. He's not going to be able to complete his journey in the daytime itself. So he's saying that I will have to borrow time from the night in order to complete the journey, which is why he has used the phrase borrower of the night. Twain is a more old style archaic word for two. Okay, for an hour or two. Okay, so that's what he's saying, for a couple of hours. Now, the other important aspect that you need to bear in mind, because you see a lot of things happen in the darkness. What did happen in the darkness? The killing of King Duncan, right? It happened in the night. Now, again, he's going to come back in the night when Banquo will also get killed. So Banquo's travel in the dark is kind of telling the audience and the reader that something wrong is going to happen, because the dark always kind of conveys something sinister as far as this play is concerned, and it kind of foreshadows the plot that Macbeth has hatched in order to eliminate him. And the dramatic irony, which is very, very stark out here, is that Banquo is kind of telling in detail about his travel plans to Macbeth without being aware that Macbeth is going to use all this information to feed to the murderers in order to kill him. He's unaware of the danger that actually lies in the darkness for Banquo. Macbeth says, "Do not miss our feast. Fail not our feast. My lord, I will not miss it." Macbeth says, "We hear our bloody cousins are bestowed in England and in Ireland, not confessing their cruel parricide, filling their hearers with strange invention, but of that tomorrow." So he says that we have heard that our bloody cousins, who is he referring to? Malcolm and Donalbain. Okay, because he was related to Duncan. Remember, they have taken refuge in England and in Ireland. They are not in Scotland. One of them is in England, one of them is in Ireland. Okay, the two have not yet confessed that they were the ones who killed King Duncan. Killing their father, killing the king is known as regicide. Killing the father is known as parricide. Okay, filling their hearers, and they have been telling strange invention. Strange invention means they have been telling strange lies or fictitious stories about the murder. They are not confessing to having killed the father, and they have been filling their hearers. Whoever is listening to them, they are telling them lots of strange fictitious stories. But we will discuss that tomorrow. Of that tomorrow, when therewithal we shall have cause of state craving us jointly. But we will discuss all that tomorrow when we'll discuss matters of state that require both your attention and mine. Craving us jointly means both you and I have to discuss those important matters of state. So they crave for us, for our attention. Those matters are craving for our attention. You need to hide, you to horse, you need to hurry. Goodbye till you return at night. Is Fleance going with you? You see, he talks about a lot of things and then he kind of slips in a question because he needs that information, because he's plotting the murder of both Banquo and his son Fleance. Yes, my good lord, our time does call upon us. It's time we got going. That's what he's saying. It's time we got going. I wish your horses swift and sure of foot. I wish that your horses are fast and sure-footed, that they know, how to gallop along. And with that wish, I send you to your horseback riding. I commend you means I let you go to ride your horses. Goodbye. Banquo exits. let every man be master of his time. Now, he says that let every man, control his time till 7 at night. All of you can do whatever you want to do till 7 o'clock at night. All of you are free to do, referring to addressing the other lords and ladies. And he says, to make society the sweeter welcome, we will keep ourselves till supper time alone. In order to ensure that your company is more enjoyable for me, I am going to spend the time till dinner all alone. So he says, we'll keep ourselves till supper time alone. So he says that till such time, I want to be alone, so that later on when I have your company, I enjoy it that much more. Until then, may God be with you. And everyone exits except Macbeth and one attendant. So Macbeth says to the attendant, Sirrah, a word with you, attend those men, our pleasure. So he says, Sirrah is a word which it means sir, but it's not said with the respect. It's generally used for someone who is inferior to your rank. It could be a servant or someone who is below you in terms of rank. Attendant says, they are waiting, referring to the murderers. He says, bring them upon me. So the attendant exits the scene. And this is the beginning of Macbeth's soliloquy, which is extremely important. So he says, and listen and mark the words carefully. To be thus is referring to be king. So he says that to be king is worthless. That is, it is pointless unless I am safe as a king. If I am not safe as a king, to be king is worthless. Our fears in Banquo stick deep, that I am deeply afraid of Banquo. Okay. And in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. And there is a natural nobility. There is in his royalty of nature reigns that. What is reigning in Banquo? There is a natural nobility which is reigning in Banquo, which is part of Banquo's character and personality that makes me afraid of him. And then he says, it is much he dares, which means that he is a risk taker. Banquo is a risk taker, and to that dauntless temper of his mind. And in addition to his rather fearless spirit, he has a wisdom. He's also very wise, and that guides his bravery, his courage. This is referring to his bravery. So he is wise, and that kind of guides his courage to act safely. So you see, it's very interesting that he's talking about the qualities of Banquo that he actually admires. But in the same vein, he says that it is the same qualities that is also a little scared of. So it is a little bit of a strange kind of a situation that Macbeth is talking about. So it shows Macbeth's internal conflict vis-a-vis Banquo, that there are three qualities which he admires, but he also sees them as a threat to his position as the king of Scotland. So there is a sense of insecurity. And as we know that throughout the play, Macbeth and Banquo are pitted against each other. Macbeth says, there is none but he whose being I fear, that there is no one else except Banquo who I actually fear. And under him, my genius is repute. Now, what is genius? Now, genius essentially means a guardian spirit. Okay, the belief at that time during Shakespeare's time was that every person possessed a controlling guardian spirit that directed his actions, that kind of directed what each person will do. Okay, so he says that my guardian spirit is intimidated, feels scared because of Banquo's presence, just like it was said that Mark Antony's spirit was intimidated because of Caesar's spirit. So he's making this comparison between himself and Banquo with Mark Antony and Caesar. So making a historical comparison, it also shows that, he's kind of beginning to lose his control over his mind, because he's talking in those kind of rather abstract terms. So Mark Antony, the story is that Mark Antony had been told by a soothsayer that his spirit was brave when it was alone, but when there was Caesar's spirit around him, it felt a little scared and intimidated. So Shakespeare is comparing the two sets, Macbeth and Banquo, with that of Caesar and Mark Antony. So Macbeth is feeling that his own abilities, his own potential is kind of diminished because of Banquo's presence. He feels overshadowed, intimidated by Banquo's wisdom. And this is important. One, it shows, what does it show? It shows Macbeth's sense of insecurity. Okay. It also shows his mental state, which seems to be deteriorating. Mental state. And the interesting thing is that he's not acknowledging the defects in his character. He's kind of projecting the insecurities onto Banquo, that because of him, I am feeling intimidated. And he's, as I said, talking about the historical event is kind of shows that Macbeth is beginning to lose touch with reality. He's talking about unrelated stories in order to justify his actions. And by talking about Mark Antonius Caesar, he's adding a layer of complexity to his own actions. So he then says that he scolded the sisters who Banquo chided. He scolded the sisters when they first said that Macbeth will be king. And he said and bade them, means that he told them that they should speak to him. Okay. And then, like prophets, he says, witches were like prophets because they prophesied. Then prophet, like, they hailed him as the father to a line of kings, saying that the next generations of kings will come from Banquo. Okay, Banquo will not be king, but after Macbeth, it will be Banquo's children who will be the kings. And so that means that on my head, they placed a crown which was fruitless. That is, it will not bear any fruit in terms of the crown, that I will not be able to pass on my crown to my children. So scepter is the emblem of the symbol of the king's authority. So he says that the scepter that I have in my hand is barren, which means that I cannot be passing it on to my children. The scepter which is there in my crib, thence to be wrenched with an unlenient hand. Wrenched means it will be snatched away. It will be snatched away by a hand which does not belong to me. It's an non-linear kind of a function. So he says that someone from outside my family will take these things from me, since no son of mine will succeed me as the king of Scotland. If it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. That is, I have done all these things, and including the murder of gracious Duncan. I did all this for the sake of Banquo's children. So he's feeling rather angry and upset because of this, that, for the sake of Banquo's children, I did something as bad as the murder of gracious Duncan. So filed means defiled. That's what defiled means, spoiled my mind. Okay. So he's kind of in a roundabout manner admitting that what he did was not the right thing to do. But he's at this point in time feeling more agitated about the fact that he did that for the sake of Banquo's children. That is what is upsetting him more. So you see the different contradictions, layers of Macbeth's thinking and mind at this point in time. So he says that I put rancors in the vessel of my peace. Now, rancors is something like obstacles, hurdles. So in the vessel is the mind. That is, I spoiled my peace of mind for the sake of Banquo's children. I destroyed my peace of mind. So he says that I have handed over only for them and my eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man to make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. So he says that I have handed over eternal jewel means my everlasting peace, everlasting soul. You say, no, you sell off the soul to the devil. Okay, so I have given away my everlasting soul to the devil. Common enemy of man is who? It is the devil. They say, no, you sold your soul to the devil, which means that you're doing something very dark. That's a phrase, right? That's an idiom. So that Banquo's children could become kings, Banquo's sons becoming the king. Rather than so, come fate into the list. So he's kind of challenging fate. Okay, he's personifying fate. Okay, so he says that, come fate into the battleground and fight to death. You can come and champion me to the end. Utterance means you come and fight me to the end. And then he says, who is there? Because the two murderers have come with the attendant. So Banquo's issue refers to Banquo's descendants. Defiled my mind means that, whatever he did, focused his thoughts and actions on fulfilling the prophecy, which of course made him king, but it also ensured that Banquo's children will be the future king. So he's kind of acknowledging his terrible crime, but he's more upset about the fact that uska fayda kisi aur ko hone wala hai, that is going to benefit someone else. So he's kind of becoming aware of the pointlessness of his action. He's no longer bothered about the fact that, oh, I have become king. He's not thinking about that. He's thinking about the next generation. Very much like politicians. Politicians, once they occupy a particular chair, they want to ensure that their son, daughter, etc. will be the next in line. It's very typical of that. Rancors, as I said, it means hurdle, but it also means feelings of resentment, feelings of hatred. And Bessel, I've already said, it's about talking about the mind. So in a sense, he's admitting that he has spoiled his peace of mind and happiness because of the regicide that he committed. So it shows, it is highlighting Macbeth's fear. It's also highlighting his frustration. I did not benefit completely because of what I did. So at that point in time, so now he wants to subvert the prophecy, somehow do something to ensure that that part of the prophecy does not come true. So he's not thinking at this point of time logically. He's not thinking if these prophecies came true, as far as I'm concerned, even these will come true. But he's not thinking in those terms. Okay, so it kind of shows his descent into moral darkness. This is an important phrase which you should use. Macbeth's descent into moral darkness and his inner conflict. Okay, I hope with my explanation you have understood this. Okay, so he's making, lastly, a very powerful declaration of defiance. He's kind of declaring defiance against fate, saying that dam hai to aake mujhse lado. That's what he's trying to say. So now, another point that you need to remember is that till now Macbeth was somewhat passive. He was dominated by his wife, Lady Macbeth. But now he's actively defying fate and taking control of his own destiny, even if it means fighting a losing battle. And it shows that his mental state is gradually deteriorating, because a rational person usually will not dare to fight against fate. Ki jo bhagya mein hai wo hoga. There is a sense of, we feel ki if what is going to happen, this will happen. Can we really fight? But he is kind of daring to take on fate. So it shows a slightly irrational side to Macbeth's personality, his way of thinking, and it shows that he's now on a dangerous path, and it prepares us that he's going to meet a very violent kind of end. The servant enters. He says, now you go and stay till the door, because he doesn't want him to overhear what he will discuss with the two murderers. So then he says to the murderers, was it not yesterday we spoke together? Now this is an important line. It shows that Macbeth has been plotting this for a while. He has already met the murderers before. He has had an initial conversation with him, and he was plotting, and that's why he wanted to know all those details about Banquo's, where he's going, when he's going to come back, how far is he going, etc., etc. How is he going by horseback, on horseback, etc. So murderer says, yeah, it was yesterday, so please your highness. So Macbeth says, well then now, have you considered of my speeches? In the sense that, have you thought about what I spoke to you? Know that it was he in the times past which held you so under fortune. So now he's trying to be clever and manipulative. Okay, listen to this carefully, what Macbeth says. So Macbeth says that it was Banquo who made your lives miserable for so long. That he in the times past, that before this, which held you under fortune, that he's the one who made your life miserable, which you thought had been our innocent self. Okay, you thought that I was responsible for your lack of success. You were blaming me, but no, I was innocent. It was my innocent self. It was Banquo who was creating problems for you. Okay, so he's now trying to make it seem as though you have a vested interest in getting rid of Banquo. Okay, so I told you about this when we met last. I made good to you means I told this about all this in when we met last. That is when we last spoke, when we last had a conference. Passed in probation with you and showed you proof. I I showed you proof how you were born in hand, how crossed the instruments, that how that he provided them with evidence, and that how you were tricked. How born in hand means how you were tricked and deceived by the agents, how crossed and deceived by the agents. Okay, deceived by the agents who did all the dirty work and a lot of other things that would convince, who wrought with them and all things that else might, to half a soul and to a notion crazed, say, thus did Banquo. So he's saying that you were tricked and deceived by the agents, instruments means agents, who did all the dirty work and a lot of other things that would convince even someone who is a half-wit, someone who is a crazy person, notion crazed, someone who has a crazy mind, even he will be convinced to say that yes, it was Banquo who did it, while you all this while thought that I was the one responsible. So he's trying to place the seed of doubt and creating enmity between the murderers and Banquo. This phrase, born in hand, is an idiom which means deceived or tricked, and half a soul, which means someone who has a weak judgment, who is not able to judge someone properly. So he's reminding the murderers of the lie that he had already constructed in the previous meeting, which we have not been seen on stage. So he's trying to say that all these things I told you the last time. So now for the first time, he's also mentioning Banquo by name, that he's the one who was responsible for all the problems that you faced. The first murderer says, yeah, you told us about it. You explained it all to us. So Macbeth says, I did that, and I also said something more, which is now the point of our second meeting. Do you find your patience so predominant in your nature that you can let this go? So he says, that is your nature so forgiving? Okay, do you find your patient so predominant? Is your nature so forgiving? Are you of such a forgiving nature, right? That you don't feel the need to take revenge, that you will let this go. It doesn't matter. Yeah, he created problems. We'll let this go. Are you like this? That you don't have any feeling of revenge. Is your nature so forgiving? So what is he trying to do? He's trying to provoke the murderers. Okay. Are you so gospeled? Means are you so religious that you would pray for this good man and for his issue, that for his children? Okay, that you would pray for Banquo, referring to him as a good man, that you would pray for this good man, when what did Banquo do, whose heavy hand had bowed you to the grave and beggared yours forever, whereas he has actually forced you into an early grave. Early grave means death, that he forced you to an early death and made your families and descendants beggars forever. That's what he did to you. We are men, my lord. Okay, we are men. So he's now trying to manipulate to make it a case of revenge by the murderers. So they don't feel it that they're doing it entirely for Macbeth. Though later in the scene, he does say it very clearly that he wants to see Banquo getting killed. So initially, he's trying to also make it seem that, you're doing it for yourself, for the sake of your own revenge. So Macbeth says, yes, you are part of in the catalog, ye go for men. So when they say that we are men, so he says, yeah, in the catalog that goes for men, you are part of the species that is called. You are part of the species that is called man. Just as hounds and greyhounds, which are form of wolves and dogs, okay, mongrels, spaniels, curs, dogs, shawls, water rugs, and demi wolves. So These are all half wolves. They're all dogs. These are all what is being referred to. They're different kinds of dogs. But you can distinguish all by the names of dogs. The valued file distinguishes the swift, the slow. But you can distinguish which of them is fast, which of them is slow, which of them is a little subtle in terms of movements, careful in the movements. The housekeeper, the hunter, everyone according to the gift which bounteous nature hath in him close. So you can know that which of the dogs are fast, which of them are slow, which of them are clever, subtle as in clever movements, which of them are watchdogs, the housekeeper, the hunters, right? You can describe each dogs based on the specific gift that nature has bestowed upon them and make it different from the general qualities that define a dog. A dog is there, but each one of these dogs has different qualities that nature has given to them. You can know where he gets a particular edition. Particular edition means a particular title from, that, oh, he's a hunter, because of a particular virtue in that particular dog. From the bill that writes them all alike. So he says, it's the same for men. Okay. And so of men. It is the same. Now, if you have a station in the file, not in the worst rank of manhood, say it. So he says, now, if you stand a place in that list of men that is not down at the very bottom, if you are completely not at the very bottom, tell me, because if that is the case, I will tell you a secret plan. If you are not at the complete bottom, okay, I will tell you a secret plan that will help you get rid of your enemy, whose execution takes your enemy. It will get rid of your enemy and bring you closer to me, grapples you to the heart and love of us. That is, bring you closer to me. As long as a certain man lives, I am sick. He says, till such time that certain man, who is he referring to? Banquo lives, I am sick, his death will cure me. Okay, so he says his death will cure me, whose death will, who wear our health but sickly in his life, that till such time that he is alive, he's I am sick, and only in his death will I get cured. Perfect. Second murderer says, I am one, my lord. Okay. So station in the file that he's referring to out here, this particular line is a metaphor, because file is a reference to a rank which suggests that the murderers have a certain level of worth, a certain stature in society. So when he says not in the worst rank of manhood, Macbeth is basically asking if they consider themselves to be courageous, brave, and honorable men. So business is referring to the task of killing Banquo. So bosoms is a more poetic word for hearts or minds, suggesting that he's entrusting them with a very secret mission. Something that will be between the three of us. Even the attendant who he has asked to stay outside will not know. The line whose execution takes the enemy off makes it clear that he wants to eliminate, get rid of Banquo. Grapples suggests that killing Banquo will bring them closer and bind them together. So this is the meaning of each one of these words and phrases. So who wear our health but sickly in his life? Our health is a metaphor for prosperity and well-being. He means to say that as long as Banquo is alive, their success will be sickly, will be limited. And only his death will make their well-being perfect. Okay, so he's kind of making it a common purpose, that it is as much your purpose as mine. Okay, so he's doing what? He's being extremely manipulative at this time. He's flattering their ego. He's giving them a sense of purpose, and he's twisting the narrative to portray that Banquo is your enemy as well. Second murderer says, I am my lord, whom the wild blows and buffets of the world have so incensed that I am reckless what I do to spite the world. So second murderer says that I have been so angry, my lord, that as a result of the beating, wild blows and buffets of the world means the beatings that I have taken from the world, all the hardships that I have suffered in this particular world, that I do not even care what I do, that I am willing to go to any extent to do whatever, because I'm really fed up of the hardships that I have faced in this particular world. So the first murderer says, and I another so weary with disaster, tugged with fortune, that I would set my lie on any chance to mend it or be rid on it. So he says that I am so sick of my bad luck. Okay, so weary. Weary means I am really tired of all my bad luck, tugged with fortune, leading to disasters. Okay, that I'm at the mercy of fate. Tugged with fortune means I'm always at the mercy of fate, that I would set my life, I would risk anything. I would risk anything to fix my life or end my life. I will either mend my life by doing something like this, or be rid of it means, or I will die, I will kill myself. So either of the two, I am prepared for it, because I'm really tired of my bad luck, always facing disasters, hardships. Both of you know Banquo was your enemy. So he says that both of you know that Banquo was your enemy. Both of them together, they say, true, my lord. Now Macbeth says, and these lines, the lines that he's going to say now, they reveal his fear of Banquo. They reveal his fear of Banquo. They also reveal his internal conflict. They also reveal the limitations of his power. Okay, that he's the king of Scotland, but there is a limit to which he can also do anything. So he says, and so he's mine, which means that he's my enemy as well. And in such bloody distance that every minute of his being thrust against my nearest of life. So he says, and he's my enemy to such an extent that every minute that he's alive, it threatens my own well-being, against my nearest of life. That is, it threatens my own well-being. And though I could with barefaced power sweep him from my side, that though as the king of Scotland, I can just use my raw power to completely destroy him, I cannot do so, because we have mutual friends who I need. Okay. Yet because of certain friends who are both his and mine, I can with barefaced power, with all my might as the king of Scotland, I can completely banish him away from my side. I can destroy him, right? But I cannot do so, yet I must not, because we have certain mutual friends who are both his friends and my friends, whose loves I may not drop. Okay, who I need as well. So that whose loves I may not drop, but wail his fall, who are myself struck down. So he says, so that I can grieve and cry over his death, even though I am the one who will actually get him killed. Okay, so when he is dead, I will be able to grieve over his death. So that's why I've come to you asking for your help. That's why I've come to you asking for your assistance. There are many weighty business reasons. There are many important reasons. Weighty means important. There are many important reasons why I must hide. Masking the business means I must hide the real plans from the public eye. The public must not come to know about this. I must hide that, and for that I have some very important reasons. Second murderer says we shall do this. So the bloody distance that he talks about right at the beginning. So he says that in such bloody distance. So he says that the distance is bloody because it is stained with the potential for violence. Obviously, there will be violence if someone is going to be eliminated, if someone is going to be killed, murdered. So he says the next line, that every minute of his being thrust, the second line, is a metaphor. This particular line is a metaphor because Macbeth feels that Banquo's existence is a constant attack on his own well-being. He feels threatened because of the presence of Banquo. So with barefaced power shows that Macbeth has the power to eliminate Banquo. He has the power as the king of Scotland, and it means he's talking about his authority as the royal king of Scotland. Sweep him from my side suggests physically removing Banquo through murder. Avouch means here, avouch means to justify or declare something as true. So Macbeth says that he could simply use his power to get Banquo killed. So Macbeth is now trying to make it a collaborative exercise, that you have issues with him, I also have issues with him, so both of us, for our own personal reasons, can actually treat Banquo as a common foe, enemy, and have him killed. So the we shall, my lord, perform what you command us. We will do what you want us to do. First murderer says, through our lives. But Macbeth cuts him short, and it shows that, there is a certain sense of anxiety in Macbeth, which is why he kind of cuts him short. So he says, your spirit shine through you. Your determination, spirit is referring to determination. That, your determination to do this is actually shining in your eyes. Within this hour at most, I will advise you where to plant yourselves. That within the hour, I will tell you where to go and where exactly to strike. Okay, perfect spy of the time. Where exactly, the exact time where you should be striking. He says, the moment on it, for it must be done tonight. It must be done tonight. Okay, so I will tell you the perfect time where you need to do this and when exactly to do this. Where to go and when exactly to do this. It must be done tonight and at some distance from the palace. At some distance from the palace. Always thought that I require a clearness. Okay, in order, always keep in mind that I need to be free of any suspicion. Clearness means that no suspicion should come on Macbeth. So he's trying to make sure that nothing of that should fall on him. In order for the job to be done right, you must kill both Banquo and his son. Okay, to leave no rubs, so that you don't leave anything to chance, no evidence or anything. There should be no botch up in the work. Botch up means no mistake in the work. You need to kill both Banquo and Fleance, his son, who keeps him company, whose absence is no less material to me. Okay, his absence is as important to me as that of his father, that is Banquo. That is, you need to kill both Fleance as well as the father. Must embrace the fate of that dark hour. That is, he too must die during that hour. That is, during the dark hour when it will be dark. Each one of you should make up your mind separately whether or not to do this. So resolve yourselves apart. That is, both of you think for yourselves individually whether you want to do this, and I will see you. Anon means I will see you soon. So he wants them to decide. So both murderers says, we are resolved that we have decided we will do it. So he says, I will call for you soon. Wait for me inside. And then they exit, and he's speaking to himself. He says, it is concluded. That means that the deal has been fixed. Banquo, thy soul's flight. That is, tonight is when your soul will learn whether it will find heaven or is going to hell. It will find out tonight. So he says, tonight is the night when it will find out. So it's a very chilling statement by Macbeth. Thy soul's flight is a very metaphorical way of referring to Banquo's death. And soul's flight is kind of talking about the flight of spirit from the body, from the human body after the death of the body. So what does this scene essentially tell us about Macbeth? A few points, and I've explained this. I'll just recap. One is his descent into tyranny, into some kind of fear, paranoia, and a moral decline. Okay, the reasons we have already discussed, that he feels that, oh, he committed the regicide only so that, and the benefits are going to be reaped by Banquo's son. So he wants to get rid of Banquo and his friends. So in that sense, he's challenging fate. He's also very manipulative in the way he manipulates the two murderers on why they should also see purpose in getting rid of Banquo. He fabricates those kind of stories. The play on hell and heaven at the end of this particular scene with regards to Banquo's fate, it shows that, he's not recognizing moral boundaries. There is a very aggressive challenge that he's mounting to fate. Okay. And the ambition, he was initially fueled. If you saw in Act 1 and 2, the initial fuel was that of ambition. But now he's seeing a tyrannical need for control. He's seeing a need for control, that he will eliminate anyone who he perceives as some kind of a threat. So Fleance is a threat. So he says that Fleance also needs to be get rid of. as much as Banquo. So there is a sense of vulnerability, that he feels vulnerable as long as Banquo and Fleance are alive. So that is what it shows about Macbeth as far as Act 3, Scene 1 is concerned. So a very important scene, especially the passage where he talks to himself, the Soliloquy. So you need to pay attention to that. And I hope you have understood this pretty clearly. I mean, I've explained every word and phrase as far as this play is concerned. Now I'll see you in the next video, which will be Act 3, Scene 2. Tata.